Once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom far, far away, there lived a princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony.
But what made Snow White truly special wasn't her beauty. It was her kind and gentle heart. She loved all the animals in the forest, and they loved her too.
Snow White lived in a magnificent castle with her stepmother, the queen. The queen was very beautiful, but she was also very vain and jealous. She cared more about being the most beautiful in the land than anything else. Every single morning, the queen would stand before her magical mirror and ask the same question. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And every day, the mirror would answer in its deep, mysterious voice.
You, O Queen, are the fairest of them all. This answer made the queen very happy, and she would smile at her reflection.
But as Snow White grew older, she became more and more beautiful. Her kindness made her even lovelier.
One terrible morning, when the queen asked her usual question, the mirror gave a different answer. Mirror, mirror, on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?
Snow White, O Queen, is the fairest of them all. The queen's face turned red with anger and jealousy. She couldn't stand the thought of anyone being more beautiful than her. No, this cannot be. I must be the fairest.
The wicked queen called for her huntsman, a man who worked in the castle. Take Snow White deep into the forest and make sure she never returns.
And bring me back proof that you have done as I commanded. Yes, Your Majesty. The huntsman didn't want to hurt Snow White, but he had to obey the queen. He took Snow White into the darkest part of the forest. When they were far from the castle, Snow White looked at him with her kind, trusting eyes.
The huntsman's heart melted. Please, princess, you must run away. Run as far as you can and never come back. The queen wants to harm you because she is jealous.
But where will I go? Just run and don't look back. I'll tell the queen I've done as she asked, but you must hide forever. Snow White was frightened, but she thanked the kind huntsman and ran deeper into the forest. She ran and ran until her feet were tired and her dress was torn by branches. The forest was dark and scary, with strange sounds all around her. She had never been so afraid in her whole life. Finally, just when she thought she couldn't run anymore, Snow White saw a light between the trees. It was a tiny cottage with a thatched roof and a red door. Snow White knocked gently. Hello, is anyone home? Nobody answered. Snow White carefully opened the door and peeked inside. The cottage was small and cozy, but oh my, what a mess! There were dirty dishes piled high, dust everywhere, and cobwebs in the corners. Inside the cottage, she found 7 little chairs around a little table, 7 little plates, 7 little cups, and upstairs, 7 little beds all in a row.
Someone must live here, but they're not very good at cleaning. Perhaps I can help them. They might let me stay if I make their home nice and tidy.
Snow White spent the whole afternoon cleaning the cottage. She washed all the dishes, swept the floors, dusted the furniture, and even made a delicious soup for dinner. When everything was sparkling clean, she was so tired that she went upstairs and fell asleep across 3 of the little beds. As the sun began to set, 7 little dwarfs came marching home from their work in the diamond mines deep in the mountains. They were tired and hungry, and they were singing a happy song. Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's home from work we go. When they opened their door, they couldn't believe their eyes. Everything was clean and tidy. Someone's been sitting in my chair. Someone's been eating from my plate. Someone's swept my floor. Someone's washed my cup. The dwarfs looked at each other with wide eyes. They tiptoed upstairs, and there they found Snow White, fast asleep on their beds. She looked so peaceful and beautiful. Who is she? She's sleeping in our beds. But look how clean everything is. Snow White stirred and opened her eyes.
She sat up quickly, surprised to see 7 little faces staring at her. "Oh, please don't be angry. I'm Snow White, and I'm running away from my wicked stepmother, the Queen. She wants to hurt me because she's jealous. I cleaned your cottage, and I made soup for dinner. Please, may I stay with you? I have nowhere else to go." The 7 dwarfs whispered to each other.
Then the oldest dwarf stepped forward.
"You may stay with us, Snow White, if you promise to cook and clean and take care of our home while we work in the mines." "Oh, thank you."
"Thank you so much. I promise I'll be the best housekeeper you've ever had. But you must be very careful. Never, ever open the door to strangers. I promise I won't." So Snow White stayed with the 7 dwarfs, and they became the best of friends. She learned all their names, and they told her funny stories about working in the diamond mines. Every morning, the dwarfs would march off to work, singing their song. Snow White would wave goodbye, clean the cottage, cook delicious meals, and wait for them to come home.
Meanwhile, back at the castle, the queen asked her magic mirror the same question she asked every day. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?"
Snow White, O Queen, is the fairest of them all. She lives with the 7 dwarfs in the forest, beyond the 7 mountains. What? Snow White is still alive? The huntsman tricked me. The queen was furious. Her jealousy burned like a terrible fire inside her. She decided she would have to take care of Snow White herself. She went down to her secret dungeon and used dark magic to disguise herself as an old woman. Then, she prepared a special basket of apples. They looked delicious and shiny and red, but one of them was poisoned with a sleeping spell. The queen, disguised as an old woman, traveled through the forest until she found the little cottage. She knew the dwarfs would be away at work.
She knocked on the door. Snow White was inside, baking an apple pie. She remembered the dwarf's warning, but the voice sounded so sweet and kind. "Hello, dearie."
I'm just a poor old woman selling apples. Won't you buy some? They're fresh and delicious.
Snow White looked out the window and saw what looked like a harmless old lady. "I'm sorry, but I'm not supposed to open the door to strangers."
Oh, but I'm not a stranger, child. I'm just a poor old woman trying to make a living. Look at these beautiful apples. Here, I'll give you one for free. You don't even have to open the door. I'll pass it through the window. The apple did look very delicious, all red and shiny and perfect.
Snow White thought surely one little apple couldn't hurt. She opened the window and took the apple from the old woman's wrinkled hand. "Thank you. It looks wonderful."
The disguised queen smiled wickedly and watched as Snow White brought the apple to her lips.
Snow White took one small bite of the poisoned apple, and immediately, she fell to the floor in a deep, deep sleep. A sleep so deep, it was like death itself. The wicked queen laughed and hurried back to her castle. Finally, she would be the fairest of them all. When evening came and the 7 dwarfs returned home from work, they found Snow White lying on the floor with the bitten apple still in her hand. They tried everything to wake her up. They called her name, they patted her cheeks, they gave her water, but nothing worked. Snow White wouldn't wake up. The 7 dwarfs cried and cried. Their tears fell like rain, but Snow White remained in her deep sleep. "She's gone! Our dear Snow White! What will we do without her?" The dwarfs couldn't bear to bury Snow White in the dark ground. Instead, they made a beautiful glass case and placed her inside, surrounded by flowers. They took turns watching over her day and night, and the animals of the forest came to visit her too. Even in sleep, Snow White looked peaceful and beautiful, as if she would wake up at any moment. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. But Snow White slept on. One bright spring day, A handsome prince was riding through the forest on his white horse. He heard the birds singing sadly and followed the sound until he came upon the glass case. When he saw Snow White lying there, surrounded by flowers, he was amazed. "Who is this beautiful maiden? And why do you all look so sad?" The dwarfs told him the whole story about the wicked queen, the poisoned apple, and how Snow White had been sleeping for so long. "This is the kindest princess in all the land. She took care of us and loved us, and now we've lost her forever." The prince looked at Snow White with great sadness in his heart. He had never seen anyone so lovely, and the dwarfs' stories told him she had been just as beautiful on the inside. "May I say goodbye to her?" The dwarfs opened the glass case. The prince knelt beside Snow White and gently kissed her forehead, wishing with all his heart that she could wake up. And then, something magical happened. The kiss of true love broke the wicked queen's spell. The piece of poisoned apple fell from Snow White's lips, and color returned to her cheeks. Her eyes fluttered open, and she took a deep breath. "Where am I? What happened? Oh, my dear friends, she's awake. Snow White is awake. You're alive. Our prayers have been answered." The 7 dwarfs danced around with joy, laughing and crying happy tears. The animals of the forest celebrated, and the birds sang the sweetest songs. Snow White sat up and looked at the prince with grateful eyes. "You saved me. Thank you. It was your own kindness that saved you. Your friends loved you so much they never gave up hope." Snow White hugged each of the 7 dwarfs and thanked them for taking such good care of her. "Will you come with me to my kingdom? You would make a wonderful princess." Snow White looked at the 7 dwarfs, who nodded encouragingly. "Yes, I will. But I'll never forget my dear friends who saved me and loved me when I had nothing. And you'll always be welcome to visit us. We'll come to your wedding." And so Snow White said a tearful but happy goodbye to the 7 dwarfs and went with the prince to his kingdom. They had a beautiful wedding, and everyone in the land celebrated their love.
As for the wicked queen, when she asked her mirror who was the fairest of them all, it told her that Snow White was now a beloved queen in a faraway kingdom.
The queen's jealousy had brought her nothing but unhappiness, while Snow White's kindness had brought her everything: love, friendship, and a happy ending. And they all lived happily ever after. The end.